To this week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues and all the controversies around the world. I'm Sumner Sambo. Our top stories: long queues return to filling stations in Lagos and Abuja after the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency announced a new price band for petrol depots, which it later stepped down after a public uproar. Reports that funds meant for the purchase of arms are missing have been denied by the National Security Advisor. Babagana Mongono claims he was misquoted. Plus, demands to maintain the minimum wage on the exclusive list continues. The National Assembly is being called upon to weigh in on the plight of the masses. And the federal government is seeking to calm anxieties over the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine as 10 European countries suspend its use over difficulties. We begin with the release of a new fuel price template in Nigeria, which has created panic buying in the capital and other parts of the country. Chinemerem Joseph has details.
Fuel queues are lengthening in Abuja. Motorists are rushing to fill up their tanks because the price increase is coming. The Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency issued a new template on its website, raising the price of petrol to 212 naira per litre. But the document caused confusion and was soon deleted.
About midday, I actually noticed a retraction from PPROA saying that the increase was not going to be tenable anymore. But that didn't make the damage has been done already. So people are just out, both panic buying and as a result of the increase, both of them are contributing. I guess past governments didn't have the political will to implement it. The earlier we do it, the better for everybody and for the economy.
People are rushing to the station to buy because the fuel station, the fuel station, they have not, increased their distance to that new price. The way it is now, even if you put the fuel in 220, 250, people will still buy in 300 because all they need is just the availability of the product.
The market are also contributing because now CQ everywhere, they have fuel but they log there selling 1 or 2 pumps.
The new price is a significant rise from the 162 naira currently being charged. The NNPC had said there would be no price increase this month. So, where did the new numbers come from? The PPPRA says it was misunderstood. They say the new price guides were shared only to update Nigerians on current market trends and that it doesn't mean costs are going to rise.
There's no need for panicking, and I can tell you from our own point of view that we said we are not going to increase the pump price of petrol in March, and we are still standing by that. We are not going to increase in March. We have adequate sufficiency of PMS in the country, and there's really no need for anybody to panic.
Now, the stations Arise News visited for this report were still selling fuel at 162 naira per litre. But the PPPRA is being criticized for causing panic, while work is still taking place between the government and unions on deregulation. Chinemerem Joseph, Arise News, Abuja.
For analysis, let's bring in Chinedu Okoronkwo, the president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. IPMAN, good to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and so what's the update on all of this back and forth by the PPPRA and the NNPC, which has clearly stated that there's enough fuel supply in the country, so there's no reason why we should be having these queues on the streets?
I think I have to align myself with what the PPMC have said and the NNPC. You remember, in a regime where there is no regulation, the role of price fixing or whatever by PPRA shouldn't even be considered, because where we get our petroleum product is from NNPC, and they have given us that this month they are still talking with labor, and we believe that negotiation is still ongoing. For anybody to panic or cause any problem in the system. IPMAN is not in support of that. And I think I'm using this opportunity to let our members know that they have to maintain the status quo ante, pending when government and labor would have resolved their issues on how energy holistically will be treated, not only PMS.
Now, we've seen that some of your members actually hoarding this product. The NNPC says it's available, but here you have filling stations actually selling fuel in one pump or just two pumps when they have several. And I mean, it's heartbreaking, especially for filling stations that you go to that have almost close to 20 pumps, and just for you to see one or two, being the pumps that are dispensing this fuel. How do you think these members can be cautioned, and are there any steps that IPMAN is taking to caution them?
Of course, here that I am now, and they're hearing what I'm saying, that there is no need for such, act of closing your station, because we're still getting the price at which we have been getting it. Nothing have changed from NNPC. They should revert.
That's the depot price still remains.
They should revert, pending when government and labor would have finished their discussion. For now, March, we're still in 12th or 13th of March. It's still young for anybody to do anything. But I will also pity them, because for PPRA to have done what they did, it's a serious thing that we have to also not blame them 100%, because marketers are only there so that they can remain in business.
Yeah, but if NNPC is the sole importer of fuel,
now that they have given that they have not done anything,
yes,
that is why I'm also telling them they should maintain the status quo ante.
Yeah, because some marketers are already selling at 165. We had some areas 170. Some people even went to 212 immediately they heard of this.
We are not talking about price fixation or whatever. The role of DPR now is to ensure that there is no hoarding of this product.
So how can the DPR actually do that when there's this challenge between the PPPRA and NNPC?
There is no challenge, because even in their website they have been...
but they posted it yesterday, this guiding price that they've always push out every month. But they had said that in March there was not going to be anything, no price was going to be fixed. That's what the NNPC said. And that's why everyone was confused when the PPPRA put up this price on their website yesterday.
Yes, I think from that angle, marketers should not even be blamed in the first place. Those whom we should blame now is the PPRA. And we don't buy product from them, we buy from NNPC. And NNPC have come out to say, look, we are not part of this. So there shouldn't be any panic.
Well, a lot of Nigerians have said we are just postponing the evil day. Because whether you like it or not, this fuel price is definitely going to go up, because the price of crude oil has gone up in the international market.
Let us understand.
Let's be realistic in all of this. Are you expecting that at the end of this month, by the 1st of April, prices will actually go up?
See, speculation is not part of the deal. Let us not speculate. At the end of the month, what if the crude price gets down?
I don't think Nigerians are also praying for that, because the higher the crude price, the better for government, especially
labor.
Finances.
There are other alternative energy uses like gas. Government is not trying to make gas available. They should be encouraged. Not talking about price, because in a deregulated regime, you don't talk about price. It's availability.
And that's why we're all surprised with all of this. Well, let's talk about the talks by the organized labor and the government on all of this. Are marketers being carried along during these talks? And what kind of outcome are you expecting at the end of these talks? How soon should that talk?
Pretty soon. By the time government, because all stakeholders have been involved in this discussion, and I can tell you for sure, the government is going to roll out something that will benefit everybody in this country, be it labor, be it the vulnerable Nigerians. What is important is for this government to save money for other projects. Let me tell you, my brother, a situation where one commodity, PMS, is giving this kind of attention, maybe 70 billion in a month, 20 billion maybe, 2 billion every day. This money could also be channeled in deepening of the gas, where you can run on CNG, cleaner, energy, and you have better bargain. Why must we be dying of PMS?
Yeah, but that's very expensive to actually convert your car, for example.
It's not. Government is going to do something.
Well,
like,
the government has said they were going to do that, subsidize and all of that, but we haven't seen much of that being a success.
No. They've not rolled out yet. About 1 million cars, first phase, will be converted. And other states will also give their own assistance from what they have told us. The whole idea is to make life easier and cheaper, where you have alternative. Not only PMS, your motor can now run on gas and run on PMS.
Okay, now let me just ask you this very quickly, because the government is doing that through the back door, and a lot of Nigerians are just dissatisfied with what's going on. Are you in support of the payment of fuel subsidy in a deregulated economy? Why is the government not allowing the deregulation to actually run full steam? Is it afraid of Nigerians'
if
reaction?
Government is not realistic in this, they wouldn't have been calling this stakeholders meeting. It's not easy. Being in governance is not easy. They are doing everything. They have called us. They have also called other major marketers too. So DPR was in the meeting. The whole idea is to get something that will move this country forward, that will still have room for other sectors of the economy, agriculture, road. And if we now, by the way, petroleum subsidy is not for the poor, if we might be very, very serious.
So you are in full support of the deregulation?
100%, because
but that's what the government has said. Remember in March last year,
never gone against it.
The Minister of State for Petroleum, Timmy Silva, actually said that the government was removing its hands. But we are seeing subsidy coming through the back door, and that's what we don't understand as Nigerians.
You must blame PPRA. Why must they begin to bring price band and this thing when there is nothing like that?
And if the PPRA doesn't bring that price guiding template, it means when government will actually sell for 212.
No, when government is still talking with labor, in a deregulated regime, you don't talk about price. You allow the market forces to be determinant.
You should also not talk about NNPC being the sole importer of fuel in a deregulated economy.
Of course.
Why is this happening?
That's why all this argument is holistic. By the time government will come out with their position, NNPC might not be the sole importer, but we must start somewhere.
Okay, in 30 seconds now, as we try to round off this conversation, what will you advise Nigerians to do, especially for those who are already thinking of hoarding fuel now ahead of April because they suspect the price will go up?
Well, the danger is there because when you're hoarding, the DPRO might even seal you off. So you don't hoard. And when you are putting petrol where it's not supposed to be, you might even be, trying to burn your environment. So the whole thing is just status quo.
We just have to go right now, Mr. Konko, IPMAN president who has been having this chat with us. Time for a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with other stories, but we must thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Back to This Week, I'm Sumner Sambo. The National Security Advisor Babagana Monguno has denied reports that funds meant for the purchase of arms are missing. In a statement from the Office of National Security Advisor, General Monguno says he was misquoted by a foreign media outfit. In further clarification, Monguno reiterates the federal government's commitment to deal decisively with insecurity. He says enormous resources have been provided for arms procurement, but that the orders were either inadequate or yet to be delivered. He says President Muhammadu Buhari is following up on the procurement process. The NSA was earlier quoted as saying that funds meant for the purchase of arms got missing under the former service chiefs. Well, I have with me here Arise analyst Mahmoud Jega. Good to have you, Mahmoud.
Thank you.
And the media is always the whipping child when it comes to all of this. In the past, you would have these top echelons of government actually saying that the local media is used to misinterpreting them. Well, here we have the NSA speaking with the foreign media. What do you have to say about that?
Well, he spoke in Hausa, but his grasp, although he's a Borno man, but he speaks Hausa very, very well. So honestly, there was very little doubt as to what he said.
And what he meant.
And what he meant. But possibly there was pressure within the government because everyone who heard it was surprised. Why is the NSA indicting the former service chiefs for the loss of this money? Apparently the president didn't know that because the president rewarded all of them with ambassadorial appointments, which they are even yet to resume, only to hear this from the NSA. So possibly that explains why he is now backtracking. And not only him, I think Malam Garba Shehu issued a statement on behalf of the president also saying that was not correct. And I think today I also saw a statement by the former Army Chief Buratai saying procurement is in the hands of the Ministry of Defense. Exactly, which makes sense because I thought, is it the Army chiefs, is it the service chiefs that carry money and go and buy weapons? And what is the use of the Ministry of Defense?
That would be bypassing protocols.
Honestly. So the statement by the NSA was really quite puzzling, and his attempt to deny it and say he was misquoted, I doubt if he was misquoted. Possibly he realized that he either didn't say the correct thing. Yeah,
but you actually said it right away that it was due to some undue pressure. No one in the presidency will sleep very fine after such a comment coming from the National Security Advisor of the president, and not just the president, the government in all, considering that this same government came into power accusing the previous National Security Advisor of misusing arms funds and all of that. I agree with you. Do you think that the presidency will be rethinking its position on allowing NSA Monguno to remain on that seat, considering that a lot of people have said that he was part of what happened with the former service chiefs, and there's no reason why he should have been left on that seat in the first instance?
You see, the only thing we probably remember was that 2 months or so before the death of the late Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, there was some public altercation between him and this NSA. Monguno.
And the former Chief of Army Staff.
Who accused, who said the Kyari was directing the service chiefs, they were reporting to. So possibly it's a continuation of that quarrel. Apparently the NSA didn't like the former service chiefs very much, and even now that
maybe the service chiefs also didn't like him because there was that report that they were reporting to the chief of staff rather than the NSA.
Well, service chiefs are not supposed to report to NSA or, for that matter, the chief of staff.
But he's supposed to coordinate them.
You see, the problem
because both the chief of staff and the NSA are presidential advisors to Mr. President.
You see, the problem with the presidential system is that the president is the commander-in-chief, he is the chief executive, he is everything. Power flows from him. If you are a service chief and the president shows you that this is the person he listens to, don't forget, under former President Jonathan, the then National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo was effectively in charge of the service chiefs. Several times people saw them in his office holding meetings with him, and he was fully in charge of weapons procurement.
Which is an abnormal.
Which was abnormal. Which was abnormal. But since clearly that was the arrangement that the then president favored, then the service chiefs were reporting to the NSA, somebody Suki. So maybe this service chief, this current NSA, expected the same arrangement to continue, but it was an improper arrangement. So they now started reporting to the then chief of staff, who the president apparently wanted it that way. Now I don't know who they report to, whether it's the defense minister or the president himself, we don't know. But really, in a presidential system, whatever the president, look, even if you don't have an official position in government, Sambo, if it is you that the president listens to, exactly. Even in the US, we saw that.
Within the Nigerian context.
Exactly.
Now let's take a look at how much of a scandal this is, because the opposition has has grabbed this, and they are using it right now to whip this government, and that's why you see you could see a Garba Shehu quickly waking up from what looks like a slumber after a very few weeks, and then coming out to actually say no, this is not the case, because they know what it means for us to get into another arms scandal. Because the reality is, here we have the NSA saying that the equipment are not available.
Yes.
Here we have a $1 billion being given for the purchase of arms, and here we are as Nigerians not seeing these arms, and here we are also seeing a rise in insecurity. How can you fuse all of this together?
There is no doubt that what the NSA said, and it's not surprising that both he and the presidency had to double and try to retract it, because it's a monumental scandal. Nothing probably discredited the Jonathan regime like the arms scandal. The revelation by the Buhari administration that the NSA took all this money.
And what's baffling to me is that the outcome of that committee that was set up to probe the arms scandal remains hidden. No one knows what actually happened, because they were supposed to have gone after that first initial report, which was like an interim report, and all of a sudden no one heard about that.
We didn't see the comprehensive report, but as you remember, many of the former top military officers were being prosecuted. I think they are still being prosecuted, including several Air Force chiefs and some directors of finance. I can't remember about the army chiefs, some naval officers. Exactly. So many were being prosecuted. Now, if you come 6 years later and say the same thing happened under the watch of the current
and not by an opposition, but honestly, by an insider,
by a top security
and someone who should be in the know.
The only thing is, we don't know how much he is in the know. Imagine, for example, he said he was not aware of what the governor of Zamfara state said, that the president had pledged to send 6,000 soldiers to Zamfara state. So he was asked, okay, is it not true? He said, no, it could be true, since the man said he spoke to the president. Now, that didn't show very good
So there's a lot of executive miscommunication in the presidency.
Exactly.
Okay, now, how much of a scandal would this be for the Buhari administration if eventually it is found to be true that monies disbursed for the procurement of equipment were not actually used properly?
You know, it will be the second very embarrassing scandal. The first one was to do with the former chairman of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, because Magu's resoluteness won a lot of traction for the Buhari regime in his dogged, single-minded fight against what we call treasury looters, only to come after some years and say he himself mismanaged, although the report is not yet out, just like the other one, but we got snippets of it from reports. Now, that was very bad and very humiliating. Now, this second one will be even worse. So the government will have to come. It's not just a matter of denying that the NSA didn't say that, or that's not what he meant.
They have to show proof.
They have to show proof, exactly, that all the monies that were channeled for arms procurement, arms were procured.
All right. That's great. Thanks so much, Mahmoud Jega. We just have to go on a short break right now. When we come back, we'll continue with a lot of stories that we have for you. Stay with us. back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo. We hold the best of conversations and analysis on this show. Well, demands over proposed amendments to the minimum wage in the country persists. In Abuja, protesters gathered at Unity Fountain before storming the National Assembly. We have a report from our correspondent, Punariman Feintola.
Workers demanding their wages are protected. The National Assembly has plans to remove the minimum wage, allowing state governments to negotiate directly with their staff. That's something that caused anger during nationwide protest on Wednesday. The demonstrators reached the National Assembly and kept going. They were met with some resistance by security, but it wasn't enough to stop them.
They must hear our voice.
Sorry.
We have one voice. They must hear our voice. We have one voice.
Protesters laid siege to the National Assembly, threatening to disrupt parliamentary proceedings if their demands are not met. Union leaders addressed the workers on their rights, saying the minimum wage is in line with international standards.
Comrades, we are here today on behalf of Nigerian workers, on behalf of Nigerian pensioners, on behalf of the downtrodden, to make it clear and unambiguous that the bill that seeks to remove the minimum wage from the exclusive list to the concurrent list is not accepted. Let me say that the issue of national minimum wage is a standard set by the International Labour Organization.
The workers are met by lawmakers who promise to give the bill their attention.
For what I'm seeing now, it appears to me and to the leadership that the organized labor are against that bill. And if you are against that bill, you are right, you have your reasons to be against it. We'll be on the ground in the green chamber of the House of Representatives to do justice to that bill. And I can understand the only justice to that bill is to kill the bill. Is that your position? Is that your position? Is that what you want? Remember in the 8th Assembly, I was the spokesman of the Senate. And I recall vividly, this issue of minimum wage was brought and we killed it. Your president is here. And because of that, I want to believe, has the conditions that led to the 8th Assembly decision changed? Nigerian workers, has the condition changed? I therefore want to say very clearly that in the past, we have stood toe to toe with the Nigerian workers. There is nothing that suggests we are changing from that direction. Rather, we will stand by you to ensure that the fundamental right of every worker is not only enforced, but is ensured and guaranteed.
Protests took place across Nigeria, with workers complaining of a rise in fuel and electricity prices, an increase in the cost of food, and a high rate of unemployment. Punarman Feintola, Arise News.
I still have with me Arise analyst Mahmoud Jega and Honorable Comrade Uchenna Ekwe, the head Department of International Relations and Liaison to the National Assembly of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC. He's joining us on the show now. Good to have you. Let's begin this conversation with the latest. How much cooperation are you getting since this protest? And what exactly are your demands when it comes to just the issue of removing it from the exclusive list? The proposal by the honorable member, which is to take it away from the exclusive list to the concurrent list. Is that just the demand that you're seeking?
Yeah, I'm just seeking that the minimum will be retained where it is. That's why we say kill the bill. Forget about the amendment, because it's not useful. It's not going to help. I'm happy you heard the senator speak about it directly. Almost every session of the National Assembly, it's either it comes from the executive, sometime in the past, when Obasanjo felt that NLC was getting too strong, and wanted NLC deregistered, or it came when some governors, just like now, felt that it is more important to weaken the labor movement,
which has been denied categorically by some of the governors. Because I asked Governor Aminu Tambuwal, who actually heads the progressive, PDP Governors Forum, this same question.
We are very clear.
And he said that this is just a private member bill. The governors should not be mentioned on this issue.
No, we are very
clear. The NLC is getting that wrong.
We are very clear. We never said Governors Forum. We never mentioned Governors Forum.
So it's some governors,
we
not the governors.
About 9 governors. We are specific. We have been specific each time we met. Tambuwal, of course, led the killing of such bill. In fact, he had the most progressive record on the issue of when he was speaker. Some group of governors that time, and there was constitutional amendment as it is now, was moving the labor plus minimum wage be removed from exclusive legislative list and put on concurrent legislative list. He, Tambuwal, got the assembly to go, that each member should go to his constituency and get the vote, and town hall meetings were called in all the federal constituencies. And the votes from the constituency returned was overwhelming in opposing that there would be that migration.
I remember that was in 2011, the People's Public Session that was held by the House of Reps.
It was.
But now let's just go into the meat of this matter before I get Mahmoud's views.
So
why should it remain on the exclusive list when we all know that all states cannot pay, and all states have varying resources accruable to them and available to them? Why is the NLC insisting on this? Is this not undemocratic in a federalism that we're practicing, for the center to be the one that will be dictating to states how much the minimum wage should be?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and I'm surprised that people still have so much misinformation on this matter. First, the federal government does not fix the minimum wage. The minimum wage is usually negotiated in accordance with the minimum wage law as prescribed in ILO convention and adopted in our own convention, which includes that the tripartite bodies that runs the labor sector meets to take their decision. These bodies include the government, and in the Nigerian case, usually the federal government appoints its own team. The governors appoint 6 representatives, 1 from each of the geopolitical zone. The employers, private employers association, led by NECA, produce its own team. Then the labor movement produced its own team. This negotiation lasted 1 year and 6 months, and the governors were represented. One of the issues recognized in the process of minimum wage negotiation is the issue of ability to pay. It's even in the provision. That was why, when we came onto the table for the demand for the new minimum wage, our proposal, based on facts, is that the minimum wage, as at the time the minimum wage was prescribed, should be 67,000 naira. But on the negotiation table, the governors raised the issue of ability to pay.
And that's why it was negotiated down to 30,000.
The employers' association also came with the proposal, the issue of ability to pay. At the end of the day, we got to a point we shifted ground to 45,000.
Okay, just hold your thoughts there. Let's have the views of Mahmoud Jega. Just like I asked him earlier, should the federal government be involved in this, in a democratic system, in a system of federalism that we're running? But he tried explaining it. But for it to be on the exclusive list, that means that the center still has to have a greater say. And that's why some people are saying that it should be on the concurrent list so that both the center and the states can actually decide on this.
Now, if something is on the exclusive legislative list, the center does not just have a major say, it has the exclusive say because only the National Assembly can legislate on the national minimum wage.
And that's why I'm surprised when you actually say that
now,
it's not only the federal government.
What Comrade said makes a lot of sense, that, well, in the end, despite the fact that it is an exclusive federal legislative power, it is a joint state, federal, and even private sector plus labor union that negotiates. But otherwise, the fact is, as you said, there is some merit in the argument that we probably shouldn't have the same minimum wage in every state, given the different levels of economic power in different states. Because like even in the private sector, the basic salary may be the same, but in many companies, if you are based in Lagos or in Abuja, they don't pay you the same rent allowance and transport allowance as they will pay to somebody who is in Taraba or in Ekiti or somewhere. In the private sector, they do a lot of that. They recognize these differences. But in the public sector, probably you can't because it is legislated and provided in the guidelines. So
I need to give information.
Yeah, and I just want to actually find out, in addition to what he has said, in addition to what he has said, must you always embark on strike to actually push this point? Why can't you just discuss this?
Let us not go to the strike first. Let's first understand the issues. And I'm happy that Jega flagged it off. And the key issue here is that people are missing the point of what minimum wage means. Minimum wage is the barest minimum. ILO took that decision. In fact, it was Winston Churchill that made the profound statement about the importance of having a shop floor wage to protect the most vulnerable of the working people. The states of the federation does not pay the same salary.
Yes,
in Nigeria,
even with the negotiated 30,000 naira, not every state is still paying.
That's not the point. All the state does not pay the same salary. What minimum wage provides is the shop floor upon which no state or working organization should go below, including the private sector. In the private sector he is talking about, they operate from the shop floor of 30,000. In fact, it was the private sector that offered the 30,000.
Yes, but the thing is that there are still violations of this 30,000 naira. What's the NLC doing and what's the federal or the state governments doing?
You are still not getting this point.
Go ahead.
We are talking about the minimum shop floor.
Yes.
And bear in mind that, for example, today, we say, okay, minimum wage removed from exclusive legislative list to concurrent. What happens to the private sector workers? Who legislates for them?
Well, that's why it's on the concurrent list.
That means
that both the National Assembly still has the powers
to
legislate on such matters.
The state can't.
Well,
because the Chinese company or the German company in Nigeria is not subject to any state. It's subject to
and that's why it's on the concurrent list where the federal and states have powers. Let's have just say one or two things about that.
The country will celebrate most about
all right, just hold your thoughts. Just hold your thoughts. We are going on a break. I promise you, when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Time for a short break now. There's more when we return. Stay with us. back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo, and we're still discussing the national minimum wage protest that happened during the week as we review top issues that happened during this outgoing week on this program this week. And let's bring you back, Honorable. You were talking about this, and one of the questions I asked you, which I also want you to emphasize on, is why Labour has to go on this strike when we know that the door is open for you to actually negotiate this issue with the federal lawmakers without looking like you're threatening them with the national strike.
First, let me remove the fact that we didn't go on strike. We went on protest. That square was cautiously built when the National Assembly was being built as a freedom square where people can go and vent their concern. And that's what we did. And that was what happened in all the states of the Federation simultaneously. But I want to pay more attention to the issue of understanding what minimum wage means. Minimum wage
why it should remain
and why it should remain on the
like you want.
Because first is the minimum shop floor intended to protect the most vulnerable and the most weak. Usually, very few people are on the minimum wage. Usually. But to be sure that those very few people are protected. And today, even the employees within the state and the federal government are far less than those in the private sector. And the private sector's leadership, from Manufacturers Association to NECA, appreciate the importance of fixing a national barest minimum. All the countries where we want to copy through federalism, like the United States, have a minimum wage, $10. 26 out of them pay beyond, above.
All right, I want to pick
states. Yeah. And even in Nigeria, when the minimum wage was 18,000, the then governor of Edo, Adams, was paying 25,000.
More than not only him, lots of other
and many
states.
That, yeah. And when you talk about states being able to pay, it is also a choice. It is not about availability of fund.
All right, let's have Mahmoud's view on that. Just hold on. Let's have Mahmoud's view on that. At this point in time, the federal lawmakers have decided to take a look at this private member bill, but they are saying that it should be withdrawn. Does the NLC actually have that right to ask a private member to withdraw his bill? Well, shouldn't it be a public hearing where the NLC will bring their position and others will be allowed to also have their say?
Well, that is true because it is a private member's bill. Even if it is an executive bill, there is no compulsion on the National Assembly to have to pass it. But usually you have processes. You go through first reading, second reading. Sometimes the bills are killed at the level of first reading. You don't even proceed to committee stage. Sometimes you do, and then you come, there is a vote, it is voted down. But it's Labour's method of putting pressure. And it appears to have worked because I think I have seen the National Assembly leaders saying they will just jettison the bill. They will not allow it to proceed.
Well, we also had the member who sponsored that bill coming here on a rise and saying that he will not withdraw that bill. It should go through the process, and if Labour has anything to say, they should also appear at the public hearing, just like every other Nigerian.
In any case,
and that's the case I'm putting to you. Why should Labour actually say it should be withdrawn rather than appearing before a public hearing to actually say your own view?
Hold on. We said, because let me tell you,
very quickly.
First, I have the privilege that I was also in the chambers. We didn't tell him to withdraw the bill. We are saying that the bill, that the members, we're now talking to the members.
But you're asking them to kill the bill.
To kill the bill, of course. Of course.
Why would you want to abort it? Why not allow it to go through the process?
They will kill it. It's not aborting. They will kill it. They will kill it in the process. That's the way those who sponsored the bill before, the bill was killed. That's what we're asking. We're asking
because if you're asking for the bill to be killed, it means they should undergo a public hearing and all of that.
That's not what it means.
And so on. Because
no, that's not what it means.
We should have a public hearing first. Then before it goes for the second reading.
You need to understand that killing the bill doesn't mean that it won't go through the process. No. Killing the bill means that when the members will vote, they will vote against it. That's the way to kill it.
All right, it's good to know that, because what we are saying, according to what I've heard a lot of lawmakers saying, is that the bill should be allowed to go through second reading, so that once it goes through the second reading up to the process, up to the process of public hearing, a lot of views will be synthesized. But we just have to go. Yes, but it hasn't gone through the public hearing stage. That's what they were saying. But you just want it to be withdrawn at this stage.
We never said, go and read all the documents. We never said withdraw
We
never said withdraw. We are saying kill the bill. There are two different things. Kill the bill doesn't mean withdraw the bill.
Well, we just have to go on straight to other stories right now. Health authorities in Nigeria said they are satisfied with clinical evidence of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, this follows the suspension of the vaccines used by 10 European countries following claims of blood clotting associated with its use. The National Primary Healthcare Development Agency says the batch in question is the ABV 5,300, but did not state that which Nigeria uses. The agency is expressing confidence in the government's confidence in the vaccine. Meanwhile, the WHO is advising countries to continue administering the AstraZeneca vaccine, stating that it was safe and effective. Gentlemen, on this issue, a lot of Nigerians have actually said that we should be careful on how we get these vaccines and all of that. But the government is assuring a lot of citizens that, look, we are not affected, and that in all of this, the vaccines are safe. What's your view, Jega?
Well, you know, usually before a vaccine, before any medicine is authorized for public use, it's a very long process of establishing its effectiveness, and very importantly of ensuring that there are no side effects. Because what is the use of treating COVID and then having a blood clot? Exactly. And we thought, even though the process of certifying the COVID vaccines was accelerated, it's not the normal many years process, but all these matters should have been solved before major drug approving authority like the American FDA and even our own NAFDAC here approve these vaccines for use. So if we hear that some European countries are already saying some problems were reported, it's very important, like our authorities are saying, is it exactly the same drug that we are using? Because we are the same human beings. If it is causing blood clot in Holland and in Denmark and other places, then we have to be very careful. But if they say it is a different one and they are sure they have established that it does not have the same side effects, then probably, because we are definitely eager to have these vaccines and see whether we can get over.
Well, there are no reported side effects in Nigeria at the moment. So far. Well, I don't know, from the NLC and workers' perspective, I don't know how you are helping the government to mobilize workers to get this vaccine, and what's your view on all of these controversies? These countries are withdrawing this vaccine temporarily, some for 2 weeks, some for 1 week. But here we have the federal government saying that the same batch is not the one that Nigeria is using.
Well, first is that talking about the view of NLC, maybe give me opportunity to let people know I cannot speak about our view now.
Yeah, but workers are actually advised at this moment to get these vaccines.
The reason is that we don't make statement on any major issues without our organs going through it. But talking about the vaccine as an individual,
yes,
I know that all over the world there is a whole lot of contestations, and it's not new, in particular about this vaccine. Anything that is major like this that has to do with human life, we have a whole lot of contestation. It is not abnormal. It is expected. People have right to be suspicious.
All right,
you know, it took several years before even people admitted polio to be administered on everybody.
All right.
Yeah, so it is expected in a crisis situation, because the world is in a crisis.
Yeah.
And that has to do.
But we just have to go right like now. Comrade Uchenna Ekwe, we must thank you so much for your views earlier. And Mahmoud Jega, it's also been good having you here to talk about all these issues, and our former guest who was here from Ipman. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of This Week, a very tough one for that matter. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching.